I want to jump around here. Aaron, I'm coming to you. What's kind of, I want to talk about the public health and product risk. I mean, you during your time, what have you seen kind of the parallels drawn with illicit vapes and the counterfeit medicine products that kind of that look legitimate but may contain those kind of unknown substances? And kind of what is the real risk with that?
The first panel really did a good job of starting to outline the problem. I spent the last, I should say, like Senator Burr, I'm the oldest guy in the room with 40 years of investigating the cartels. I got hired at DEA just before Rachel coming in and was kidnapped and murdered. So after 3 years, I volunteered for assignment to Guadalajara, and I've been dealing with the cartels ever since. In the last 20 years, I've been doing counterfeit medicine, and what we've seen is the Mexican cartels, the birth of the Wuhan cartel in combination with the Mexican cartels, and then MS-13 in El Salvador become the source for counterfeit medicines being smuggled to the United States. What we did was chemical analysis on these medicines to figure out, are we really just whining about lost profits, or are we really talking about a public safety issue? Now, when you find children's cough syrup being sold at the local bodega that contains hydrogen peroxide, that's a problem. But until we can demonstrate to local prosecutors and law enforcement who have limited resources, this is not the box doesn't look right, the hologram doesn't reflect right, we're losing money. This is a very serious public health issue. We also found ethylene glycol, we found thallium, heavy metals in cancer medicines, diabetes medicines, HIV medicines, all being sold in the bodegas, flea markets, galerías, other unauthorized retail locations. So the question is not, do these illicit vapes contain dangerous chemicals? The question is, how dangerous are they? The last thing I'll say on this point, we talk about asymmetric warfare. Asymmetric warfare is, how do I compete with that giant who I don't have the resources militarily to compete with? Well, I do it a different way. I subvert their economy, make their people weak. I take their money. So now my sources in Mexico are telling me the cartels have had enough. President Scheinbaum has extradited more fugitives to the United States in her 2 years than the last 4 presidents combined. The cartels have had enough.
Sorry to interrupt, but this is important. The shooter who murdered my sweet little Daniel brought a highly lethal weapon with him to my son's first.
Some of you might remember when Osama bin Laden asked Pablo Escobar to put a poison in a ton of cocaine he was doing in the United States to make an impact in America. Fortunately, Pablo said, that's my customer. I'm not going to do that. When we went into Tora Bora after 9/11, we found that Al-Qaeda's, one of their main missions was to compromise the U.S. drug supply, to wreak havoc, create death across America. They don't need to do that anymore. They do that every day in illicit vape shops across America. So the danger is clear and present and ominous. It's just a matter of time before it manifests itself in a way that we might have had a chance to get ahead of it, which we didn't do with fentanyl, but we've crushed fentanyl, and we continue to crush it. So much so that the new generation Jalisco cartel that took over from my old friends in Guadalajara and the Sinaloa cartel are now backing out of fentanyl. Why? Because they're emphasized illicit vapes and counterfeit medicines. They'll make the same money, but nobody's looking. So the potential is devastating.
Right. And I know fentanyl is one of those widely viewed things in the media now. Of course, they were behind, like you said. Now we're seeing this with possibility with illicit vapes. Richard, I want you to jump in here with